session is primarily geared towards answering questions from students about the rail industry and about the companies that are here. What I'm going to do is give each of the people on the panel about 1 minute to stand up and introduce themselves and talk about their company a little bit, and then we'll move on to the rest of them. After that, I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask, and then we're going to open it to the floor for questions from students. Hopefully my raffle tickets are going to be back here before that starts. So then we've got to wait till the panel that minute. So as we get started, let's go ahead and get started.
Are we live here or not?
Should be, I think.
Good evening. My name is Jim Hansen. I'm with Railworks. We are a North American railroad contractor, track, transit, and systems. We're a company with 31 offices throughout North America, about 3,000 employees to date. Had significant growth during the rail renaissance over the last 12 years. I look forward to a great future, and we're privileged to be here and talk to the bright young minds at Michigan Tech here.
Hello, my name is Darrell Babbitt. I graduated in 2008 civil engineering. Vice chair for the Railroad Transportation Advisory Board here at Michigan Tech, so I try to stay in contact with Michigan Tech. As an alumni, I currently work for the Andersons. It's one of the largest grain companies in North America. They have 26,000 rail cars, so I manage about 20,000 of those, including 50 locomotives that they have. First time the Andersons have been here, so I'm glad to represent them. Look forward to meeting everybody tonight.
Hello, I'm Otto Freiberg. I'm actually a student here, and I'm representing HTD, which is the place I worked at over the summer. That was an office in Chicago, about 180 people. It was multidisciplinary, and our track group and signaling group was probably 16 to 20 people. And then I guess I'm here to recruit for them. They do have a job opening reserved for Michigan Tech, person that wants to go there. Preferably if you've been in the rail class, which is what I'm TAing now, as well as the microstation design class. So if you want to talk to me more about the position, I'd be happy to, and pass your resume along to them. And for anyone else here that's from Chicago, from the design firm, I'm looking for another summer internship to broaden my experience. So talk to me if you are. Thank you.
Good evening, Eric Tyson from ENSCO in Springfield, Virginia. Our company primarily provides solutions for track measurement to both commercial railroads and to the federal government. And for some of the short lines, we provide services as well. So we're constantly on the lookout for technicians for field work, as well as mechanical and electrical engineers, computer engineers, or software engineers, and that kind of thing.
Good evening. My name is Modest Mohire. I'm Tech Calum 2013. I'm with Beckman Associates. Our rail group is growing very fast. We have about, we work in the Northeast, we're about 25 people, and we work in design and consulting. So I'm looking for track engineers, mostly track engineers to work with us, and we're a great team. I've been with the company for 2 years. Thank you.
I'm Josh Cotter. I'm a tech alum from 2008 with Via Rail Logistics, and we're a small company that has 2 offices, one in Green Bay, Wisconsin, one in Fort Worth, Texas. We have 10 people. We've been growing with the demand, and mostly serve industry, any industry, large or small. So usually exciting projects.
Good afternoon. My name is Brett Johnson. I am with CSX Transportation. I was also a civil engineering graduate of Michigan Tech in 2010. I work in our design and construction group, which is primarily responsible for basically capacity improvement and other capital improvement projects within our infrastructure. But we hire pretty much any discipline engineering major across the board. We have a pretty strong mechanical engineering group that manages and maintains our rolling stock and our locomotives. We have a communication and signals department, which manages all of our communication and signal infrastructure, which keeps the trains moving. And then our engineering group, which has maintenance away, which is your daily maintenance of the tracks, and then also signing construction like myself, so building and improving on that infrastructure.
John Warloff, BNSF Railway, tech grad of 09. I guess signal supervisor. Work for Western, BNSF's a Western Railroad with 26,000 miles of track. We have hiring for, all disciplines for signal, track, and mechanical departments, and also operating as well for those that are non-engineering majors.
I'm Eric Sarnik with CN. I'm in our Signals and Communications Department in our standards group. We're part of the group that writes, that updates our testing procedures and protocols if any regulatory agency in Canada and the US does anything to change regulations. We also test kind of pseudo R&D new equipment that's to be used and choose whether not to approve its use for our rail, for our signal system. Our company is kind of like any other class ones here that are we're looking for pretty much any engineering discipline that you can think of, and also any sort of management. So definitely, from my end, opportunity to plug for any electrical engineers, because with our PTC, positive train control, that's the new buzz in the rail industry. We're going to need a lot of help. So.
Good evening, students, faculty, railroaders, members from the agency. My name is Joe Bagno. I'm from AECOM. AECOM is a global engineering firm. I head up in our Chicago office our rail group, where we have a track engineering design group, a structural engineering and inspection group, a field service group, a program services group, as well as a signal group.
Hello, I'm David Brad from Sharma and Associates. I help run the research and development and business development part of our little company in Countryside, Illinois. We have about 25 people, and we serve the industry by helping the government improve safety and operations, and commercial entities improve the bottom line by helping design safer vehicles and locomotives, among other things. We hire all different types of disciplines as well, and the benefit of working at such a small company as ours is that you get the benefit of doing multiple tasks, not necessarily just one or two things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your introductions. I'm going to ask, this question is one that will be answered by everybody on the board, on the panel. What one thing would you have done differently in college that would have helped you in your career now? So one thing would you have done differently in your career during college that would help you right now?
How are we answering these?
Just work your way down. We started down to that. We start on this end, this end.
Well, one thing would I have done differently? I would have probably, I don't know if I'd have done much differently, but I would probably focused a little more on the reasons why I was an undergrad. And I was going to say probably not enjoying myself as much. But the reality is you need to be able to balance all these things, and you should be able to relax once in a while too, as well as work your tail off. And so I'm really not answering very well, but so I'm going to pass it on.
One thing that I'd consider doing differently during my collegiate career would be to get further involved in extracurricular activities. It's one thing to be a well-rounded student, but it's also really important to make sure that you're giving back, that you're getting involved in the community that you're involved with, because that will be an expectation as you move forward in your career.
When Dave forewarned me about this question, I told him that my answer was going to be twofold. That it was going to be study more and drink less. But what really, I probably could have used a little bit more hitting the books when I was here, more so than I did. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience, and no regrets. I'm at a good place. So.
I guess what I would say is probably, especially working for Class 1, is looking for and using as many opportunities to be able to, for leadership opportunities. Because at least with Class 1 railroads, that's the big thing, is a lot of leadership. And taking those opportunities and learning from them in college as opposed to trying to learn them on the job.
So I would definitely say that humble yourself and ask for help when you first realize that you need it, rather than waiting until it's too late. That was a big struggle of mine in college, is like realizing that I needed to go to a career, or not the career center, like one of the help centers for a class. But that will apply directly to your career. If you have, you know, a job or a certain assignment that, I mean, you're just hitting your head against the wall, there are plenty of resources, whether it's within your company or outside of your company, and somebody that you may know, that the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So ask for help the first sense that you have that you need it.
So there's some good answers. One that I think would have been nice is to have experience in each field. So like one in maybe construction, one in the consulting, and one in the class railroad. You can have the experience in each internship, and you have a leg up on knowing what you want.
Thank you. Looking back, I believe to be good if I had a better understanding of the different opportunities I had in front of me. Because sometimes we go through college, like day after day, but I don't think I understood where the different opportunities are available to me as a railroad, somebody who was interested in the rail. So that looking back, that was something I believe would make a difference. Thanks.
A couple of things I think go a long way to success in the industry are communication and teamwork, and along with leadership was already stated. To become effective and to get ahead in a company or in the industry in general, it's important that you see where the task needs to lead, and if you are part of a team and there is a leader designated, it's important to recognize the work that they're doing and how you might need to fill in if they go away or what have you. But communication skills, people skills are a big part of that to help you gain exposure within your division, your department, your company.
Well, I'm still in college, so I tell myself to study more during class, but it never works out.
What I changed, thinking back right now, is I started my first internship my third year for a Class 1 railroad. Fourth year, I did a short line. But one thing looking back, I would have done internships a lot earlier. It gives you an opportunity to see what's out there. Ask any one of these. It's a lifestyle change that you're going to have in the rest of your life after college. So it allows you to pick that career and decide what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Tell you what, there's one bit of advice that was given to me early on, was that I made up my mind I was going to build a career in the railroad industry. This is a relationship-driven business, and I can't expand enough on you guys, especially when you're out here meeting new people, that this is a small fraternity. It really is. It's relationship-driven. Your first impression is very important. And I can't tell you how important that is and how grateful that's been in my career.
Okay, and then my second question. As you're looking at our students and thinking about who you're going to hire, who you're going to try and pick for an internship, what one thing would you tell them to get ready to work for you? start at this end again.
I'll tell you what, it's real simple. I do a little homework. Okay, you know, I use the internet, get on the webpage, do a little research, and tell me what you're gonna do for me. It's that simple.
I'll kind of touch on that, plan and prepare. Anybody ever heard about the elevator speech? Prepare that, even if it only takes 2 minutes to research the company, they want to know that you're interested in them and that you're willing to commit your time, so be prepared.
I guess as someone who's gotten jobs in the rail industry and internships, my biggest thing is know the job you're going for. If you're going for a design job, you better know how to use MicroStation. And no matter where in the rail industry, you better realize that every once in a while when something's due or you have a submittal that's coming up, you better be willing to work a 70-hour week without any complaints because that's part of the industry. No matter what part of the industry you're in, it should have been done yesterday.
I conduct a lot of interviews and don't obviously hire everyone you interview, so it is important to do your research. It's again, that goes back to something I was saying earlier. People skills and communication are key to assuring the person across the table from you that you're the right fit for the job.
And I would say be prepared and be ready to learn, because from school, looking back, sometimes we think we know a lot of things, but at the start of the career, that's where we're starting to learn. So I say even if you know the fundamentals, be open to learning new things and be humble. Probably that's the big thing. That's a big thing.
A lot of repeating here on this one. I'm good. Showing initiative, number one, when you're trying to get a job, and then once you get it, at least in the design, is knowing MicroStation is a nice like. I should say, and a caveat, if not all firms use MicroStation, some use AutoCAD, so you should probably know which one.
I'll answer this question from the perspective of like already working for a company. But I know I went into applying for jobs as I was preparing to graduate from tech with a glamorous mentality of being a career woman. That I was going to be in some fancy suit, wearing heels in a cool building as a manager of something. And that my perspective was I was going to be working and homework would never come home with me. Throw that out the window. You still have homework as a career person. My phone will ring on the weekend. My phone will ring at 5 p.m. on a Friday when I would really like to be drinking a beer. But you still need to take a call and to do your job. So I think have a realistic perspective of the job that you're going into and that you want, and throw the idea of that you don't take work home with you, because you do.
Yeah, I'd like to echo her comments in the way, I mean, it's very much, at least from the class ones, working for a class one, that, it is very much a big lifestyle change. You are subject to call a lot. You're going to be working quite a bit of overtime when the job requires it, and you're going to have to deal with lots of travel. It's just one of the things, wherever the hot project's at, that's where you need to go. You better be there.
I guess I'm gonna have to be unoriginal and go on the prepared note, because having come up here and worked at the career fairs for CN since I graduated almost 10 years ago, and I talked to a lot of students, and one thing that always seems to get my attention more is when somebody can come up and instead of me telling them what, like if for instance an electrical engineer does, or they tell me what I do, what an electrical engineer does on the railroad. They've shown that they've done some research, some homework. There's been times where I'll have somebody come up and discuss what a mechanical engineer does on the railroad, and I learned from the students and about my employers, so being prepared, having that knowledge can really wow and make you stand out from the crowd. as opposed to, again, I'm more than willing to give you the tour of my company, but if you can give me the tour of my company, you're a leg up.
So many good points already brought up, and I'm going to highlight. You've got essentially anywhere, study will say between 30 and 60 seconds to make a first impression. Being prepared, knowing who you're talking to, and being able to at least come up with 3 points about yourself that you want to convey to me, I think are essential.
I'm going to go from the perspective of once you're working with me or with us in my little company. You will be, first of all, you should try to enjoy yourself while you're working. Secondly, it's good to be able to be part of the team and help out, not necessarily take and run with stuff. And it's also important that you're flexible enough so that when you feel like and you're needed to lead, that you do. So I would prepare myself as you're going out there to take different kinds of roles. And that goes in line with what Joe just said about being able to talk the talk with certain people, different levels of positions, different people from whatever. That's so important. Thank you.
Yes, the whole panel? All right, safety's been like a big part of our class. What advice would you give us students to be prepared for when we get to the job field of what different safety aspects we might need to see?
Okay, so as I hear, just so everybody else can hear what that was, I heard that as a, how does safety impact you on the job once you get out in the railroad? Is that what you're looking for? Okay.
I'll take that first. Safety is number one prevalent in what we do at Railworks. We have a corporate safety director. We have 31 safety field managers in the field throughout North America. Every job that we bid, every job that we compete for, every job that we complete, safety is first and foremost, every aspect, and it reflects really on the whole industry.
Yeah, same thing for our company. You have to be passionate about it. It's not just about rules. You have to be passionate about it and understand and watch people, because in 1 second you turn your eye away, somebody could get hurt. You don't want to do that.
I guess I would say that you'll probably hear it a lot, that like safety, take it home with you type of a thing. It's really true. I know one of CSX's policies is to back into parking spaces and since starting to work for them. Like I back into a parking space all the time. I back into my driveway, I back into my garage, like that's a personal thing. So whatever safety practices that you have at work, those are as valuable to apply in your personal life.
You know, I think you'll find whether you work for a railroad or work for a consultant or a supplier, you know, there's one tagline I know one industry has, that safety is a way of life. No matter what part of the industry you're from, you'll find that it's first and foremost in anything that you do. Even on the consultant side where you're involved with designs, safety is part of everything that you're planning and designing for.
I would say that after a while, you get pretty good at safety if you pay attention. I've gotten too good at it, I guess, because my neighbors think I'm the safety police. When they're doing things out in their yard or whatever, I question them about everything they do. And I'm proud of it now because it's a good idea. I mean, it's bad health to be unsafe and it's bad monetarily to be unsafe.
Safety, you know, you'll hear all of us will say it's number one, and that is very true. Having been a signal supervisor for 5 years, I can honestly say that even beyond just the buzzword, the buzz phrase, I always wanted, personally, the guys that worked for me, I had 20 employees, and I wanted each one of them to go home the way that they came to work. You know, again, it was more than just an industry term that we throw off. It was a passion of everybody out there. So it's huge.
All right, so most of it has been focused on railroad and construction, but also it's kind of an obligation of the engineer, unless you're a professional engineer, to uphold the safety and welfare of the public. So you always have to take that into consideration as well when you're doing design.
Yes, safety is very important, and there is no work more important than safety. So I can see that even in my own company, looking back in the history, for the last 30 years, there was no safety violation, because every time we meet, there is a safety reminder. We talk about safety. You understand, everything has to be safe. And if it's not safe, it's not worth it. So it's very important.
I think you have to strive, if not every day, at least periodically, take a fresh look at what it is you're doing each day and challenge yourself to find the risk and mitigate that risk as best you can within the policies. I have teams traveling all over the United States working in locations that don't normally have workers out on the rail. And so that adds a little bit of challenge where they have to always be looking at, this is abnormal to the people who normally work in this area, so I have to go out of my way to make sure that we're protected and that everything we're doing, there's no risk.
I guess working in an office environment, the joke would be don't throw pencils, but really when you're a consultant, you're going to get out and see the field quite a bit. I know that I worked on Chicago Transit Authority, and that's a third rail system that does passenger transit 24/7. They don't shut down that for anyone. When you go out to inspect how something was made 80 years ago, so you can design off of it, you have to go out with 3 flaggers, like a maintenance crew, and you have to be fully trained on how to, by the CTA specifically, how to work on that track. And as a consultant, you're going to hop around jobs, so you're going to be training constantly, learning the new areas that you're going to be working on. And the big thing is don't endanger the people that work in that industry, because you're not new. You're new to that area, and the people there know a lot more than you. So follow their lead and what they do to stay safe, because especially third rail, it's scary when you learn how to step over that thing, and when you have to step over it, because if you touch it, you're going to get fried. So some things can be really scary out there, that's for sure.
I guess kind of wrap it up. I mean, safety is, for the entire industry, it's something that we take to heart. Everyone wants to see not only themselves, their employees, that are underneath them, their friends, their buddies, because really, within the rail industry, as much as you're away from your family at home, your other railroaders that you're working with become your family, and no one wants to see each other hurt. Everyone is always willing to step up and help out each other through thick and thin with family issues at home. So we always want to be looking out for each other in the field.
Okay, thanks. What gift would you like?
No. From the bottom and now into co-management of a project. It's pretty big. Although it seems like it's monotonous from day to day, there's always a little nuance that makes it a little bit challenging. And that's refreshing, because you don't want to get into a rut and drop your guard and become complacent in any aspect of it. So particularly when you're dealing with the railroad, I always say to people, you can't generalize, you generally can't generalize the railroad. It's too challenging. It's always changing.
Anybody else want to tackle that one?
I guess I'm not going to necessarily talk about my career, but I'm going to talk about the industry, why I think it's so great. It's, I received my degree in civil engineering, but I'm working 100% mechanical right now. So your options are wide open in what you want to do. Get your foot in the door, but the options are endless. There's so much in the rail industry that you'd be surprised once you get in there.
One thing that I liked, I was a field supervisor and I took an office job, but what's actually really cool about it, my gig is that it's part of our headquarters group, so travel is something I've seen places in the U.S. and Canada that I've never been to before. I've never been to Edmonton. I just went up there last year. Been down to the Gulf of Minnesota. Next week I'm going to Washington D.C. for a conference. So a lot of movement and getting to see different places, enjoy different places is a nice little perk for my particular gig.
Any other takers?
I guess for me, I would say a lot of the freedom and to an extent the ability to define your schedule. I mean, there's, at least with my current position as a signal supervisor, I guess I'm a lot of leeway as far as how I want to go about my day and what I want to accomplish. I mean, there's still of course, there's set goals that I need to get done, but how I go about it is definitely something that more I can control. And I like that aspect of, you know, I mean, you get to be a self-motivator as opposed to somebody always breathing on your neck of, you got to do this, this, and this.
Okay, thank you. So we've added these two. These are the two Progress Rail jackets. One's a hoodie, one's a fleece jacket. Examining carefully. While he's doing that, we'll call next.
Alright. Our next one is 305. So 281-305.
That's not from the back. Thank you. Okay, and the hoodie is off the table. Talk to Ken Ford about it and give him your information.
Hi, my question is, what impact has PTC had on your company?
What effect does PTC have on my company? Good question.
A huge financial impact.
Finances are big element. Manpower, resource allocation, design time. I think we can say that we've put sufficient burden on our suppliers because now they have to ramp up their game to accommodate us. So.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as you know, Signal in general, whether it's you know, suppliers, contractors to the class ones, it's been a huge growth in the Signal department and a lot of renewal, not only with just equipment that's out there, but also a lot of guys are learning new stuff, new things. It's a lot to take in and a lot to do, and we've got people that are learning way more than they ever would have, 15 years ago. It would have taken them 10 years to get to the same level of knowledge, and now we got guys that are only 3 years in and they're doing amazing work. So it's been actually, for all its downfalls, it's been great as far as what it's brought to the signal industry.
You know, not speaking from a railroad perspective, but from a consultant perspective, opportunity. There's still plenty of agencies and rail entities out there that need assistance with developing their programs. And it's not just for a 2015 deadline, if that's really what the deadline is, or a 2018. It's going to be an evolving system that's going to be here for the ages, to be honest with you.
Anybody else want to tackle one more time?
There are other emerging technologies that are going to have to be developed to make sure that PTC is enacted. There are things that are still not, as far as I understand, still not sufficient enough for it to be enacted. And so those kind of technologies, including rail flaw detecting, broken rail detection, is going to improve. So that kind of stuff's going to be good for the future for all travelers on rail.
As a railroad contractor, PTC has had a big impact on us. Railroads and our signal communications group. Without being redundant, opportunity obviously is prevalent for us. But the other hand, it's put a burden on us for capacity, trying to meet our Class 1 customers' expectations to be part of that PT solution. So it's been rewarding, but very, very challenging as well.
Okay. Thank you. Let me add, go ahead and choose your gift. PTC, besides the obvious, we're going to have less accidents. Okay.
One of the things that happens in the railroad industry is that because of the history that all these railroads have, CSX, for example, is an amalgamation of 13 different railroads. And so you have 13 historically different signal systems. And so you've got everything under the sun. You've got crazy stuff that's 100 years old and still somehow works. But one of the great things about PTC is it's going to give us a new common digital infrastructure that's easy to expand on and is going to be standardized through the network.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
We're adding to our wireless communication backbone. Every site has monitoring that's going on in some way, shape, or form, and we're incorporating in our strategy devices that include Wi-Fi and things like that. So we've got a more enhanced way of getting into our devices, to seeing it, more transparency. Internally too, and for our internal usages, or departmental transparency that may not have existed before. So
I'll comment again, it's going to bring about opportunities. It's not just a once and done stand-up of a system. It's going to require a significant amount of staff to upkeep and maintain. So in the future, there will be tremendous opportunities to keep this system as it evolves, and then once it is stood up, continue to be operated.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, what are some rookie mistakes you made in the beginning in your career that you see happening often?
Mistakes that you
made in your beginning.
Any mistake that you made at the beginning?
I'll take this one first here. I think the biggest mistake I made was being scared to ask for questions. You're new in your career and feel like you're going to be scrutinized on everything you do, but you need to ask questions if you don't know. Because there's plenty of people out there that will know, whether it's people that are taking classes with you right now, because another 5 years. I have contacts to this day that are in the rail industry that I call when I have questions, so I'm sure you ask.
I was about to say something. You're asking for help, you're asking questions. Because out of school, you feel like you have a degree, you know something, and you have things to prove yourself. By proving yourself, you feel like if I ask 10 questions a day, I'm about anything. But it's good to stay humble and ask questions. Because that's the way to learn. Yeah. And it's common. If I said it, it's very common. Yeah.
Any other takers? I'm going to add something to that one. When I got out of college, I was in the Air Force, and I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I thought that I knew more than I did. And my NCOs, who would be the workers in the railroad industry, quickly straightened me out. And once I learned that I should take their advice and listen to them more, things went a lot smoother.
And on top of that, I think one of my mistakes was, when you get into the industry, any place you work, you need to realize, at least, maybe this industry is more so than others, that the people that you meet, if you decide that you don't want to treat somebody right for some reason, and not that I did that, but they could bite you because the industry is so small. You have to be aware of what you're doing and what you're saying, and try to be aware of people's feelings and thoughts, even though this is engineering work or railroad work. You still have to think about what you're doing, because it can get you later if you don't.
Okay, thank you. What?
Involved in organizations that helps you get ahead, like ARIMA would help you get ahead, and that was something I think initially I didn't think I could afford, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there might be like a tiered type system now, or at least in AS.
Certainly students can get in for free, so student membership is free, and I think there might be a tiered lower system when you're first starting.
I think so.
All right, our next.
I know you touched on this a little bit, but as far as like a work-life balance, how is it within the industry? Is it difficult to, if you're away from home so much, is it a pretty difficult thing in the industry to have that balance?
I guess my answer to that would be it really depends on the role that you have. The work-life balance for someone in the consulting side of the industry is going to look very different than a frontline manager for a Class 1 railroad. I'm in the design and construction group, so even my work-life balance looks different than a frontline manager. If that's something, hold on, let me back up on that one. You can, I think if you prioritize that, you can have an enjoyable work-life balance regardless of the role that you have. It's just a matter of managing your time properly and appropriately. So there are roadmasters out there, I know with our company, who work 100 hours a week, but they'd rather work 100 hours a week than go home. And maybe when you're first in your career, I mean, when I first started, I'm single, I don't own a house, I don't have any pets. I could work 100 hours because what better did I have to do type of thing. So it's really going to depend on the role that you have, the place in life that you are, and then what you're willing to give. And I don't think, me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with somewhat making that known. You don't want to completely come out and say, I'm not going to do that. But I think if you make somewhat of your expectations for your own life, people will learn to respect that for you.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it is very much, it's something that you have to make a priority. No one in the industry is ever going to say, hey, you know, your boss isn't ever going to come over and say, hey, you worked enough, it's time for you to go home. They're going to let you work as much as you think you can. And so, yeah, it's finding out, I mean, because like just about any job, there's always something more that needs to be done. And it's definitely, you know, you have to find that tipping point of does this need to get done now, or can it wait till Monday, or wherever. Like mine being in the field all the time, I mean, I'm able to juggle my schedule a bit, so it's like if I need to be at home 2 o'clock on a Thursday for whatever reason, I'm able to kind of move things around to be able to make sure that happens. Or, you know, and so I'm going to work late on Wednesday to make it up. You know, it's stuff like that, or, you know, realizing what you can do with just your phone. You know, you don't have to be there out in the field for every little thing. You got people that can take care of it for you.
I've looked into this quite a bit because I have tried to decide what part of the rail industry I wanted to go into. So I talked to a lot of people in different aspects, and I say that in every different part of the rail industry, people have a different work-life balance. And I think a big part of it is finding the part of the industry that fits with you and going for that. I mean, I personally don't want to be called at 3 in the morning or whatever when a train derails and all that. So being a train master isn't for me. Now, even in the consulting world, like I said, I work 7-hour weeks, but that's once a month when the submittals due. And then when my submittal's done, you might have a week where I go over and help the highway group because our submittal's done and we don't have a 30% for another month and a half until that's due. So you got to fill your time up because you don't want to go on overhead. But you got to look at the career you're going into and look at the time that's going to be expected of you and the responsibilities that are expected of you and weigh if you're willing to do that and if the pay that they're going to be paying you is worth that sacrifice. But I mean, that's why at least I found what works for me in the design world, and you got to find what works for you. I know some people love being a train master and they don't mind waking up at 3 in the morning to go do something, but it's not for everybody. But they get compensated well for it, that's for sure.
Any other takers immediately? One thing I would add to that, sometime in your career, you are going to be that boss that has people working for you. You need to look at your people, and there may be times when you need to say, go home. Because your people need to be taken care of as well. So that's something to think about as you're getting up there and you start getting to positions where you have people working for you.
Obviously, there's competition between the rail industry amongst itself. Looking at the industry as a whole, between trucking and airplanes, what has the rail industry done to stay competitive and become more competitive?
Intermodal. we are able to take trucks off the road every day. I know for CSX specifically, we have emphasized adding capacity on tracks, adding capacity in yards, adding capacity vertically, not just horizontally when it comes to double stacking train, clearing vertical clearance obstacles in order to make a double stack route possible. We're even starting to look at constructing sidings that are 15,000 feet so that we can pass that. I mean, that's a 3 mile long train. So think of a 3 mile long train that's double stacked. That's equivalent to what used to be like 6 different trains. So just, it's all about efficiency, but a lot of it's coming from intermodal and how can we pull more off the road.
Part of what the rail industry is doing is through, on the Hill, people are arguing for safety against longer, bigger trucks, things of that nature. As you know, fuel-wise and emissions-wise, the railroad's way above any other mode. And that's a competitive advantage, especially in this time of environmental sensitivity and everything else, and safety and stuff. So it's primed to grow. The potential for the railroad is fantastic, actually.
You know, I'll tell you, one thing the railroads do compared to some of the other industries you're mentioning, they invest 40 cents on every dollar back into their property. And that's what's given them the competitive advantages they're getting. Again, you know, truckers rely on federal funding. They have the army of legislators and more lobbyists in Washington campaigning for that right. But the railroads invest 40 cents on every dollar back into their infrastructure. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Anybody else? Ken? Ken?
It's not about competition, it's about partnerships. The railroads can't move the first and last mile, and truckers can. It's about using the mode that's appropriate for that load. And if you look at the railroad industry and look at some of their biggest partners, some of their biggest clients right now, it's the trucking industry. You look at where the railroad industry is growing, taking crude by rail out as the exception. It's the intermodal and it's the domestic intermodal. That's where the growth is. That's also where the partnerships have to be.
I mean, I think of every year we talk about internally within our company, UPS season. I mean, that right there is a huge partnership. We slow down the curfews that we have for construction and track maintenance activities in order to make sure that UPS trains are just flying down the lines. And that's so you guys can all get those Amazon shipments that you want.
Okay, thank you.
Is you guys probably all have to deal with a lot of different people, and some of them might be more difficult to deal with than others. So how do you manage that, and how do you deal with those types of situations?
Managing your emotions, and I think if you manage, you learn how to manage yourself and what you're outputting, you help yourself a lot.